Alright fam, welcome to the second channel, Earthman Dan in a van, and there's the van. So thanks for coming on over and checking out this video. Today is the very first episode, so let me give you a little introduction about what the channel is, and then we'll get right into today's topic. So Earthman Dan in a van is going to be my side channel. This is going to be all the van life stuff that's going to coincide with the main Earthman Dan channel. Earthman Dan in a van is going to start with the conversion vlog. Alright, so this is a ambulance, as you can probably tell. It is going to take a fair amount of work to turn it into a livable home, as well as a kind of mobile studio on wheels. I've given myself 6 months, but I hope to do it a little bit faster than that. I'm afraid it's going to take me longer than that, because this is all new to me. And if you guys are thinking about doing a van conversion of any kind, this is going to be a channel for you to follow, because I'm going to be figuring this stuff out right alongside you. And I'm going to be sharing the whole process with you guys along the way. Alright, so episode 1 is going to be our introduction and overview of the vehicle. So I'm going to give you guys the tour, and I'm going to talk you through a little bit of my design concepts and show you guys what I plan to do with this in terms of the conversion. We should have a fair amount of content coming out as I convert this thing into a livable home. So I picked this up off of Facebook Marketplace from a guy named Robert. He was super cool. He did a lot of work on the vehicle, getting it ready for private use, so removing all the sirens and you know, radios that have to be removed, patching a lot of the spots and a lot of the holes where the sirens were. So huge shout out to Robert. Thank you so much for getting the vehicle ready for me. It looks really great. It drives great. So really appreciate all the work that you put into this. Throughout this whole process, I'm going to be keeping track of all the expenses, every dollar I've put into this, and I'll be sharing that with you guys so that if you're interested in doing something like this, you have some perspective on the costs. Okay, so first of all, the vehicle itself. This is a 1995 Ford E350. This is the 7.3 liter Power Stroke diesel version. That is an engine that is known to go forever. Now, it is a diesel, which, as we all should know, is absolutely terrible for the environment, but hopefully I aim to be kind of compensating for that by the fact that I'll be living a very minimalist lifestyle in a van, right? So the whole back is going to be solar powered. Pretty much all of my appliances, you know, my fridge, my AC, my computers, everything that I'm using for work is going to be running off of a solar powered setup. And so really I'll only be using the diesel when I'm moving. Another thing to consider is that I don't eat most meat, so I've slowly started to try to reduce my my meat consumption to reduce my impacts on the environment, and you'd be surprised how many burgers would be the same thing as driving this thing around for a couple hundred miles. So additionally, I won't be living in a home, and homes are incredibly inefficient in terms of their energy usage as well. So I think overall that's something that I will be tracking, and I'll be sharing with you guys on this channel because it's something I'm interested in. So it'll be fun to kind of do some calculations and figure out exactly what my carbon footprint would be once I'm, you know, fully off-grid living in this vehicle. The vehicle's got 6 wheels, so this is a dually, so it's got 2 wheels in the front, 4 wheels in the back, kind of doubled up on a dually axle. That's something that I might change. This is a 2-wheel drive vehicle, not 4-wheel drive. So I'm hoping maybe in the future, if I save up enough, to buy one of these U-joint off-road kits that you can get and have somebody install to turn your vehicle into a 4x4. They're expensive, anywhere from seems like about $5,000 to $10,000. So that's a little bit pricey, but I could try to save up for that and add that as an addition later down the road. This thing has about 108,000 miles on it, which is pretty low. It was actually deployed initially in a place called Amwell Valley, which I believe is in New Jersey. But the key thing to note is that it is a rural town. You don't want to buy an ambulance from an urban center. And the reason is because they just get used and abused and driven, even just idling will run through a lot of the parts. These things basically need to idle to power the back. That's something that my solar setup should change. Another thing that you want to try to look out for is if you can find a vehicle from the south. You don't want a vehicle from the Northeast where the roads are salted. Unfortunately, this one spent a fair amount of time in the Northeast in the salty roads, but I've had a look at the undercarriage. Not really much rust to worry about because I actually paid $8,500 for this truck. So that's a reasonably good deal. I've seen a couple newer models go for a little bit less, but they tend to have more miles on them and a higher clock hour, a run clock hour for the idling. I'm pretty happy with that deal, and the most important thing is that it allows me a little bit of wiggle room to spend a couple $100 or maybe even a couple $1,000 more fixing up anything that really needs to be fixed to have the vehicle running perfectly. Alright, so next part of the tour is the cab. So this cab is actually in surprisingly good condition for being a 26-year-old vehicle. Some of the floor mats are a little ripped up and it definitely needs a vacuum, but it's looking pretty good. The surfaces are all clean, all well cared for. The felt line ceiling, there's no major scratches, no stains, so it all looks pretty good. The only big problem I have with this is that the seats are incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, I drove it about 100 miles just to get it home, and it was rough on the back. So I'll probably be looking into getting some sort of replacement seat cushion at some point, maybe something memory foam, definitely a little bit more lumbar support. That's going to be key. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty good condition. It has the original head unit here from the vehicle, which is kind of going to be where people would control the lights, the sirens, everything. All the functionality for lights and sirens have been removed, but we do still have the spotlights all around the vehicle, so left side, right side, and rear, and those can all be lit up and controlled from here. We also have this fun thing, so just a handheld spotlight, but it would be kind of cool to have a spotlight handy in the vehicle for once I'm out in the wild parts of the world. Be kind of a fun thing to have. You know, the visibility out the front is spectacular. You know, you're up high, you've got these enormous big windows everywhere, so the forward-facing visibility is good. It's just the kind of the blind spot in the rear that is terrible. So hopefully I should be able to fix that. That's gonna be a total of 5 cameras on this vehicle if I've got my math right. So I'm gonna have a left and right mirror camera with 2 little displays in the cab. I'm gonna have a digital reversing mirror, and that digital reversing mirror will link up to a camera on the back up high, so that'll give me a nice wide overview that will be always on, and that'll be running constantly with a good, you know, elevation, so I really have a good idea of what's going on behind me. But that camera, that mirror will also have a forward-facing camera built onto the front of the mirror, and so that's essentially your dash cam. That mirror system is going to be capable of constant recording when the vehicle is running. So I'll basically be able to have everything front and back recorded from at least 2 of the 5 cameras. And then the last camera is actually going to be an additional reverse camera, but that one will be mounted down low and wired up to a new head unit that I'm going to install. I'm going to be putting in a 10-inch Android touchscreen head unit, stereo head unit, and that will come on when I go into reverse, and that will have a lower down profile, and that camera even has some sensors on it to detect when you're close to something. So 5 cameras, very upgrade to this old cab with some new technology. That's going to be a whole separate vlog putting that in. So that actually might be the next video, is upgrading the internals on all these things, or the next few videos maybe, if we're honest. So yeah, let me take you around back and show you the inside. Alright, so welcome to the back of the van. This is where the magic is going to happen. So as you can see, one of the big advantages of getting an ambulance is you've got a lot of space to work with. These things are also built like Mack trucks. You know, these things are solid aluminum frame all the way around. So yeah, this is going to be a really solid, sturdy frame to work with. It does make the vehicle really heavy though. When people first get their van for conversion, There's a bunch of different things that they consider. They consider the length, the height, the fuel economy, whether they want to park it in a city or whether they're going to be really out in the wild for the most part. I kind of wanted the best of all worlds, which is why I ended up going with the ambulance. There is a downside of ambulances, which is that the internal wiring that exists right now is a nightmare to work with if you are not a professional electrician, which I am not. So there's going to be a steep learning curve when it comes to dealing with all the wires that are currently in here, and I aim to have a fully electric system. So a lot of people, when they do these, they end up having propane tanks for cooking, sometimes there's propane powered fridges, propane powered water heaters. This is going to be propane free. I mean, I've got a big roof. I really plan to go, you know, all out, balls to the wall, solar power system. So I'm gonna have 3 or 4 batteries, 3 or 4 panels, depending on what I can fit up there. I would like to have an AC. I'm thinking also of getting one of these ACs that functions essentially as a mini split, but in a very compact form. And so what that means is it has a heat pump built in. So if you don't know what a heat pump is, it's basically a AC unit, but if you flip the direction of it, it becomes a heating unit. So again, I'm going to be keeping track of all these expenses as they come up. I'll have like a giant ongoing spreadsheet that I'll be sharing along the way so you guys can keep track of all my savings disappearing. All my savings, like I have any. What am I talking about? I blew all my savings on this van. Alright, so another couple things that should be noted about an ambulance in terms of choosing this type of vehicle for your build is that one of the reasons that people tend to do this is because they're kind of ready to go. So with very minimal effort and minimal expense, I could actually just take off in this thing as it is. There's plenty of storage, both inside and outside. You've got all these extra storage racks. You've got a large open space where you could throw down a cot. And some people choose to do that. Some people just, you know, bare minimum expense, so just the basic necessities, and off you go. Because again, as you can see, you've got a perfectly livable space. You've got lights, you've got outlets, you've got power that requires the engine to be running, but you know, if you put on an electrical system, you could essentially start, you know, in just a few weeks of work, and you could hit the road and get going. I don't plan to do that. I plan to fully gut this thing, which is going to be an enormous nightmare and a ton of work. But realistically, I wouldn't enjoy it if I feel as though I'm living in the back of an ambulance full time. I would much prefer to have it feel like a home. So I am prepared to spend at least the price of this vehicle again to get it to that point. So most of these videos that I've watched, the conversion of the interior with all the everythings, all the pumps, all the solar panels, all the batteries, seems to cost people anywhere from like 10 to 15,000 if they do it on the, you know, if they fully convert the interior to be an off-grid mobile home. You can do it for less. You can probably do it for just a few thousand if you go just minimal, you know, just a cot and a couple cooking things and a couple solar panels and batteries. You can do it for less, but I don't want to. If I'm going to be living in here full time, I'd want it to be, you know, a comfortable home for me. So I'm kind of mentally prepared to save up bit by bit and just slowly plug away at the upgrades to this until it gets done. Which is also another reason why I'm not going to be doing this right away. I need to get more work to fund more work. So, right. And then, so in terms of the actual design for the interior, I've actually already mocked up a rough idea of what it is going to look like. So I'm not much of a cook. So my thought process was make the kitchen as small and as minimal as possible. I am going to have a fridge. But I think in terms of cooking, I'll probably just have a hot water boiler, like an electric kettle, and a induction stovetop that I can put away. So I'll just take it out, plug it in when I need it, use it for a few minutes, and then store it away. So I kind of want to have this kitchen be, you know, a minimal, lightweight kitchen. I am, however, going to be somewhat future-proofing this so that if I do decide to sell this one day, there could be a better kitchen installed. And so, for example, that'll be things like in front of the door, I might have a countertop that pops up where the cooktop could live when you're cooking. So, that's the kitchen. I do a lot of graphic design and video editing work, as you guys probably know. I also run a wildlife conservation NGO called Fauna in Focus International, and we are currently working on various design projects for nature centers and environmental education projects. Right now we've got a couple projects in Madagascar that I'm working on, and luckily I can work on those from anywhere as long as I have computer and the internet. And so that's going to be a key part of what happens in here, which means I'm going to need a fairly good desk. So the left side of the ambulance, opposite the door, is where I plan to do that. So I'm going to have a pretty large desk, a dual monitor setup, and one of the monitors will kind of double as my TV. In van conversions, you see a couple different versions of the bed. One of the common ones you see is a convertible bed. So what I mean by that is you might have a little dinette. So like a couch on the left side, a couch on the right side, sometimes a C-shaped couch that wraps around the back. And that couch converts into a surface that you can build a bed on. And so typically you would slide something out on the left side, slide something out on the right side, or flip something, or maybe the table fits down into that space to make a solid surface. And then your couch cushions kind of flatten together and form this large bed. And that's great, except it requires you to assemble your bed every time you want to have a nap or every night before you go to sleep. And one of the things I did before going into this is I watched all the videos of, you know, top 10 things that I wish I knew before I bought a van, top 5 regrets of my van build. Overwhelmingly, the number one thing that people were saying was they hated having to build their bed every day. So, the other option, if you're not going to have a convertible bed that you build every day, is to have a permanent bed. And the benefit of that is it gives you a garage. And your garage is essentially going to be, you'll have a permanent platform built for your bed that just stays there. And you have a garage underneath it, which is essentially a storage room that you can access from the back, from these two open doors. That also means that about halfway through your bed, you have more storage that you access from inside. So you could put your toilet in there, you could put your fridge in there, you can put all sorts of stuff on the front side of the garage underneath your bed. Now that sounds great, lots of extra storage, but it also means that the entire back half of your vehicle is lost to your bed, which means it's always there. It always looks messy unless you make your bed perfectly every day. And for most of the day, you're not going to be using it. You know, you sleep 8 hours a day, so for the rest of the hours of the day, that is essentially lost space, although you do gain the storage. So there is that to consider. So my whole idea is to combine these two concepts and give me the best of both worlds. And so what I'm going to do that I haven't seen yet done in an ambulance, and I have no idea how I'm going to do it. That's not true. I have a small idea how I'm going to do it. But I want to build this bed on a lift. And so my plan is that my bed will actually go up and store against the ceiling during the day. It'll get itself up and out of the way. I won't have to like disassemble anything. Essentially, I can leave the pillows, leave the blankets, everything as is, and just hoik it up to the ceiling. That's the plan. Another thing, I've seen people doing this with winches and with motors, and there's this thing called a Euro lift bed kit. These things are thousands of dollars, and I want to do it on the cheap. So I've actually already ordered a hand cranking lift for storage, and it's capable of lifting more than the weight of the bed. This isn't going to be like, this wouldn't hold my weight, which is substantial, and the bed. This is just to get it up and out of the way during the day. And then it'll kind of latch securely to the wall so that as I'm driving around, it's not bouncing around. So it'll be on just cables, 4 cables in the corner, which will just hoik it up. Then the bottom of the bed, I'll kind of decorate somewhat to have maybe lights, maybe some storage areas kind of under the bed. And then under that, I'll actually put a full dinette, so 2 couches and a table. And so what that'll do is it'll give me like this little separate room, like a little kind of somewhat claustrophobic room under the bed. We'll see how claustrophobic it ends up being. But that'll have 2 couches with a nice table in between, which means if I park up at a campsite and somebody wants to play some board games, I actually have a table where a couple people can gather around and play a board game. These are things that I think are really key. If you just have your forward half and it's just this cramped little space, you can't play board games with anybody. You'd have to go outside to do that. And also, that is your space. You are stuck there. You can't kind of disconnect and go somewhere else. by having these kind of two sections, I feel like I will be able to, mentally at least, feel like I'm leaving this one little space where I sit, 24 hours a day, and kind of come into another area and kind of like unwind or read a book or watch a movie or something, but from a different perspective, from a different angle, kind of with some dividers in between the two areas to visually separate them, make you feel like you're in a different place. So yeah, that's the van concept, that's the idea, and it's gonna be a lot of work. I hope you guys are interested in this kind of stuff. Probably the first video will be upgrading the cab with some new technology, and after that we're gonna get into the demolition. I still need to get this thing registered and insured, which is a whole process into of itself, so I'm gonna try to do that this week while I'm doing the front cab upgrades, but I don't think that's worthy of a video. That's not very interesting. So yeah guys, if this is the kind of stuff that you're interested in, if you're thinking of going into van life on your own, if you're thinking of doing an ambulance conversion, just get subscribed, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, get subscribed, click that button down below so that you get updated when the next video comes out. And also in the description below, I'm gonna link to a bunch of other van life channels, as well as some of the ambulance channels that I've been following, just to get some ideas and inspiration for this one. So you guys can check those out if you're interested in getting like your head wrapped around what kind of thing this is going to be. Thanks so much for watching and taking the time to check out this film. Hope you're as excited as I am to see this come together. And yeah, until then, this is Earthman Dan in a van, signing off.